Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of Therapy. And our guest for today is Mrs. Hemal Kunte. Hello, ma'am. Thank you for coming to our platform. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Rajita. Thank you for inviting me.
Same, it's a pleasure. Okay, ma'am, I'll get started with
Thank
the
you.
questions now.
Yes,
So, the
yes,
first
please. Yeah.
question says, I am depressed. What should I do?
Okay. Okay. We hear this quite often these days, that I am depressed, I am depressed. What I understand is you may be feeling sad, okay? And you may not be actually depressed.
Okay.
So, first thing I would like to say is do not label yourself as depressed because depression is a very much a clinical term. It needs to be assessed.
Right.
It needs to be assessed by a mental health professional. But I do agree that you may be really, really feeling sad. And, many times what happens is people just go and check on Google and they think that, okay, all tick marks that I'm feeling like this, I'm crying, I'm having mood swings, loss of sleep, maybe,
Yeah.
and they think that, yeah, all tick marks are there. So I'm depressed.
Right.
Please understand, it is, similar like COVID. Just because you have fever, you have throat infection, you don't have COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. So just because all tick marks are there doesn't really mean you're depressed. Maybe you're feeling sad.
Okay.
And it is okay to feel sad. Okay. Because we all have ups and downs in life.
Right.
And some days are good, some days are not so good. And it is okay. So first thing is it okay? It is okay to feel sad. And then if you're crying, if you're not feeling good, maybe finding difficulty getting out of the bed, understand that you're expressing your sadness.
Okay.
And that's also fine. You're just expressing your sadness, and that's also fine.
Okay.
All right. So please do not straight away label yourself depressed because it's a clinical term and it needs to be assessed by a mental health professional.
Right.
Okay. So second thing about it is understand that we all have the capacity to cope up. So I'm sure whoever has sent this question, it's not that the first time this person is feeling sad,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
we all have the capacity to cope up. So give yourself some more time. Come out of it. Give yourself time. But suppose in spite of that, if you still feel that no, I'm finding it difficult to have control on my emotions, then maybe seek some help. Okay, now people have difficulty seeking help in the sense there is no clarity. They don't understand whether they should be going to a counselor or to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I will suggest there is no need directly to go to a psychiatrist. You can go to a counselor and talk to a counselor. If there is a need, the counselor will send you for further assessments.
Okay.
Because this is also one more very important point that not every time medication is required. Sometimes only talking about it can help.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So the second one, I think it's a pretty pertinent question right now. It says, how do you define a good relationship?
Hmm. Okay, so Rujita, I understand we are basically having this for young adults, isn't it?
You're right.
And I understand, yeah, yeah. There are many types of different relationships we have in our life. So since we are dealing with young adults, I understand this question is towards a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming that and answering this question. So
Okay.
what is a typically good relationship? To start with, do not any relationship, if you start on the basis that okay, the other person needs me, or if it starts out of sympathy or pity, that's not a very good relationship, because there has to be some kind of feeling, love, attraction towards each other. All right, so any relationship that starts for sympathy or pity is not a very good relationship. There needs to be some kind of a feeling. Then of course there has to be respect, mutual respect
Mm.
for each other.
Yeah.
Mutual respect in every aspect, I will say. because I've seen that typically people, you know, say like this, that, oh, I love you, but you know, oh, how do you look? Just, you know, shaming, body shaming maybe, or giving negative labels.
Right.
You know, that's a disrespect. You
Yeah.
know, so a good relationship needs to have a lot of respect for the other person, and there has to be mutual respect.
Right.
Okay, typically in a good relationship, two people will spend time together, quality time together, because that's also, you know, we see many times that people say, no, no, I do love you, but I don't have time for you. You know, friends are more important, something. So then you really need to know, is this a good relationship? Okay, more than the quantity, the quality also is very important, and of course the quantity is also important.
Yeah.
All right, so spending time, taking care of each other's emotional needs, you know, because people otherwise typically what happens is it's only about my needs. You know, so taking care of each other's needs is very important in a good relationship. All right, trust is a very important factor. Trust is a foundation of any relationship,
Yeah.
and you know, we need time to build that trust, and trust can be broken very easily.
Yeah.
And once it is broken, it is almost difficult to, you know, have that trust again. So a good relationship is definitely when there is a lot of trust, and it's responsibility of both the people to maintain and build up on that trust. And to build that trust, different boundaries are to be maintained. All right. Second, another thing is, you know, we see that lot many times we have certain assumptions. You know, we don't really communicate things. We
Yeah.
think that, oh, I thought you will understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one actually can read each other's mind. So we need to be very specific, very open, very communicative about what we expect. And of course, to listen is also, you know, very integral part of communication. We need to listen to what the other person is saying. So if there is a good communication, like, you know, it's not that always you say things that the other person wants to hear. That's not a really good relationship. You know, let me tell you, people have very, you know, funny ideas about love. Like, if you love me, you will do this for me, which cannot really happen,
Yeah.
right? So that's a good relationship where people can really have that space to talk about what they say, and there is good communication between the two. Uh, Another very important factor is there is no place for violence in good relationship.
Right.
You know, may it be physical, emotional, or sexual violence. Somehow, in my sessions, I've seen that, you know, physical violence is, people are normalizing it. But I will say that any kind of violence is not good. So that means if you want a good relationship, or what is a good relationship, there definitely has to be absence of any kind of violence. And understand, every relationship is give and take. Typically, I have again seen people saying, "Oh, my love, no, my dog loves me so much. It's an unconditional love."
Right.
There is no unconditional love. You're feeding your dog,
Yeah.
you know, and the dog doesn't ask you questions. People somehow forget that. Okay, so the point is, there is no unconditional love. Every relationship is give and take. And typically, we just look at what am I receiving in the relationship. You also need to see what am I giving in the relationship. Because when there is a balance of give and take, the relationship is good. Okay, and another thing is, you know, there should be enough freedom. Like I said, I would like to show you one thing here. Uh,
Yeah.
can you see this?
Yeah. Move it to the right a little, please.
Uh,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
visible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you will see on the top there are two circles. All right. These two circles are intersecting. That is a good relationship. Here you will see that the circles are almost on top of each other. You know, it is like these two people have lost their identity. Whereas in the top circle, two circles, the people are having interdependence,
Yeah.
and they are not on top of each other. They are maintaining their identity. And in this side, you will see their complete independence.
Yeah.
I think people have this confusion that what is a relationship, good relationship, whether there should be dependence, independence, complete independence. So I will say there should be interdependence, like the circles that you saw, two circles intersecting. Yes. Okay, so that's a good relationship. So because some people are so dependent on their partners because it almost becomes like a parasite. Okay, or they are too disconnected. Okay, so that's not a good relationship when one person is a parasite.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Another very one more aspect I would like to add here is it's very important. Yeah, it's very important to understand that possessiveness, being possessive and being jealous, to some extent is normal or natural in the relationship. But the possessiveness or the jealousy should not go to the extent where you yourself feel dysfunctional or your partner feels suffocated.
Yeah.
No? Yeah. So those can be broadly classified as good relationship.
A good relationship. Okay. So now the third question. It says, why do my parents always compare me with other children, and how do I cope up with this?
Okay, so two parts to this question, right? Okay, I really feel this. It's unfair for the parents to compare their children with someone else, and this happens almost everywhere, that the parents compare their children with any other child, may it be academics, sports, even health, even the looks, anything. So let's first understand, why do people or why do parents do it in the first place. So I want you all to understand the parents' perspective also, though I'm not validating that, but it's very important to understand. Right? Especially in Indian culture, whatever the child's success or failure is, it is attributed to the parenting skill. Right? So if the child is successful, you are a good parent. If the child is a failure or is not really doing well, then you are not a good parent. So understand that the parents are under immense pressure to be a good parent in the first place. Because the child's success defines the parenting. All right. At the same time, parents have more experience. They know how the outside world is. It's a cutthroat competition there and a ruthless world. They know it is the survival of the fittest, so they want their child to be the best because they want good for their child finally. Right? I think that is also one reason why parents, compare their children with other children. There are, of course, other reasons, because many times rather, people have unrealistic expectations. That parents think that, oh, if the other person can do it, if the other children can do it, why can't you? Study for IIT, you will also get there. That's an unrealistic expectation, because you need to know where your child stands. And parents many times do not realize that the expectations are unrealistic. And that's why I think the comparison happens. That's all. There is also a conditioning, I think, on the part of the parents, that they think it's okay, it's normal to compare. What's so great about it? What is wrong in it? They don't know that it's not really good, because actually they do not really understand that it impacts the child's self-esteem. They'll say, oh, what is self-esteem and all? It's okay. This happens all the time. It happened at our time also. So somewhere normalizing that, not realizing, but it really impacts the child. All right. So it's part of their conditioning also, and not understanding how it impacts the child. Now, having said all this, now how do you cope up? Because you need to cope up finally, isn't it? So first thing is, it's very important that you have clarity about your own self. Right? What you can do in whichever field, whether it is sport, art, any or academics, whatever. The child needs to know, where do I stand, what do I like, and how much I can achieve. Many times children also do not have that clarity, so they can seek help from a career counselor maybe, to get that clarity. Once you have that clarity, it is very important for you to talk to the parents. I know it's not an easy task, but if you can be polite and firm, the parents may listen. And I think finally, if you still have struggle, if you're not able to help your parent understand that, maybe seek some help. Go to a career counseling along with the parent
Mm.
so that they can also understand it better. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that. Okay.
Thank you.
So now there's a last question. It says, I'm
Mhm.
home because it's a lockdown and I'm unable to smoke. How do I deal with withdrawal symptoms?
Okay. Okay. This is a slightly abstract kind of a question because here, we don't really know how much this person is smoking, how many cigarettes. It's cigarettes, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
And it is normal cigarettes, right? Okay. And what are the withdrawal symptoms?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, first thing I want to tell this person that we are almost 5.5 months into the lockdown now, and you have managed till now. Okay, so I think you can manage. There are different aspects that I'll be talking about it, but definitely understand that if you have managed till now, you can manage. Okay, now it's very important for a person to understand why, in the first place, are you smoking. I'm not questioning it as being judgmental or something, because people do smoke for different reasons. Someone might be smoking just for the recreational purpose. Someone may say that, okay, it helps me in reducing my stress. Someone may say, no, I'm so habituated now, I can't give it up. So it is important for people to understand why are you smoking in the first place. Okay, because if it is just for the recreational sake, and I understand that something is stopping you from doing that now when you are at home. That maybe your values are coming in, possible, or maybe there is not enough privacy, not good place, possibly, isn't it? So these can be the reasons. So check with yourself what exactly is stopping you from smoking. And then if it is for the recreational purpose and you're still not able to do it, maybe there are other things which can be, which you can do for the recreation. Try that. All right, if you're thinking that it reduces my stress, there are other things to reduce the stress, like maybe exercise, yoga, breathing exercise, you know because there is a restriction that you cannot smoke now, right? Understand there are other stress busters, maybe playing with children, playing with pets, having some kind of hobby. Okay, this is relaxing in whatever way you want, you can do that. If it has become a habit, then that is a real concern now, because then you really have to check with the withdrawal symptoms. Okay, what is happening to you? Because withdrawal symptoms can be typically a very high anxiety, maybe anger, maybe not feeling very good in the body, shivering. These are some of the few withdrawal symptoms. Then try to see if you can cope up. Like I said, we all have the capacity to cope up, and you have coped up for 5.5 months, right? See if you can cope up. But if you find it difficult still, then please seek help. Maybe you can go to a doctor or again a counselor and seek help.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess it's okay.
Yeah. That's the end of all the questions. Thank you so much
Okay.
for all your answers. It was really
Thank
informative.
you, Rujita. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hey guys, hope you liked today's episode. Please don't forget to comment, follow, and share, and keep sending in lots of questions. Thank you, guys.